Hi, Michael Bettine here, once again, with a new episode of It's Cup of Time, coming from the Temple of the New Golden Dawn. All right, so I want to collect a few things that have come up this past week and answer some questions. I also want to make some observations and I'll do a little playing. So we got a little bit of everything. Got my notes so I don't miss anything. All right, first thing I want to talk about is a lot of people get hung up on their gongs, on their specific gongs. And that's easy to do because those are the gongs you are working with all the time. They're the ones that you have in your possession. And you're practicing with them, you're using them, you're playing with them out at sessions and performances and whatever. And you tend to build up your whole sort of repertoire of things that you do based on specific instruments. And we all do that. I mean, I do that. I have, my specific setup. Like none of this is what I'm using currently. It's all packed up, ready to go for this weekend. So I use a specific setup every time. But I want to caution everybody from getting too hung up on your specific instruments. Because as I have said in the past, the instruments don't matter. What matters is us, what we bring to the table, as it were. What can we do? Because the sound, yes, we hear the sound coming off the gong or the bell or the bowl or the shaker or whatever. But that sound emanates from them, yes. But the sound originates even before we strike or shake something. The sound originates here and here. That's something really important to understand. You should know what sound you are going to make before you make it. As I always preach, it shouldn't necessarily be accidental or random, like, oh, I'm hitting the gongs and whatever sound I get, that's fine. No, you should know what the sound is. You should know. I can hit the gong here and get one sound. I can hit it here and get another. I can change the mallet and hit it here and get a different sound. All those things. But that all originates here in your mind from knowing what to do. But it also originates here in your heart from feeling what to do. So again, the sounds we make might emanate from all these instruments we have surrounding us, but they originate within us. So that's a very important thing to understand. And I think a lot of beginners and newer people don't understand that because they're totally fixated on the instrument, which I can understand. I mean, these things are amazing. It's, just to play is a wonder. Just to make these sounds. What can I say? That's really amazing. So it's easy to get fixated on the sound and the actual instruments that produce the sound and not realize that the sound originates with us. Now, I have a great story for this. So here's Cup of Time story time here. I was fortunate enough to be asked to present a masterclass at the very first Gong Summit back in 2019. And, well, besides myself, I mean, nobody brought instruments. None of the masterclass presenters, except Mike Tamburo, who drove there and brought his whole setup. But The other presenters, like myself, didn't bring anything, because I flew, and I'm not going to fly all my gongs out there. Sheila Whitaker from England was there, and she presented this most extraordinary session where Sheila did her thing, and it was all on borrowed gongs, and she jumped in there, and she had some people participate with her that she was working on and doing her sort of therapeutic healing work on and all, and she was playing on Paiste gongs that were presented or were available to use. She hadn't met these gongs beforehand. I mean, she showed up, she flew in, she was there. It came time for her presentation. She got up and did it. And she did the most extraordinary session. It was amazing. There were like 90 people there, and it had all of us just in awe. I kid you not. And she was doing amazing things, and we could feel this so deeply. Sheila can play at such a deep level and such a profound level. We were all affected by it. And she was playing on gongs that she met then and there. And they weren't like, oh, I need a 38-inch Sun Gong and a 34-inch symphonic. No, it wasn't like she requested anything. It was just like, here's the gongs you can use, pick out stuff if you want to use it. Boom. Profound. It was just profound. And it's just, to me, it was the best example of not being attached to specific instruments. And that this is where everything originates. This is where it all is. It's from us. So it was, you talk to anybody who was there and saw Sheila present, they'll tell you the same thing. It was just, we were all awestruck at it, and we were all affected deeply. And the people who participated were affected at an even deeper level. It was amazing how she worked with them and did all this stuff on borrowed gongs. So that's, I think, one really important lesson. Once you get past the newbie stage and the sort of beginner stage, is realize that it's all coming from you. It's coming through your hands, holding some mallets. It's coming from you. The sound originates there. The sound it's latent in all these instruments. There's sound potential, but it can only be awoken by the person playing them. Now, story 2, also from the Gong Summit. Along with Sheila, there was also myself and Jens Zugar from Germany. And we were playing on the same gongs, pretty much. But we all have very different technique, very different ideas, and what we brought to those same gongs was very different. And we each brought ourselves. So when I played, it sounded like me. It was no different than if I'm playing the gongs behind me. When Jens played, it sounded like Jens. When Sheila played, it sounded like Sheila. I think that's, again, this is a lesson I just cannot emphasize enough. Once you get going and you get to a certain point, you have to have that realization that the instruments are just tools. And everybody talks about, oh, magic. There's magic in the gongs, and there's magic in these bells, and there's magic, magic, magic. There's inherent possibilities. That's the phrase I always use. I mean, just sitting here, nothing's happening. Right? The gongs are just hanging there, but there's inherent possibilities that I could strike one, and it will yield a sound. But until I strike it, there's nothing going on. There's inherent possibility. There's inherent magic. All of these sort of principles. They're just objects, pieces of metal, full of possibility. But that possibility can only be woken up by someone like me, like you. And it's up to us to bring our own thing, our own personality to these possibilities, and to wake it up, and then to release it out into the air, into the ether. And I don't always get to play on my own gongs. I travel. If it's within driving distance, I will generally drive and bring my own gear. Like last year in 2020, I went out to the gong camp in Pennsylvania and taught a master class and some other things. And my wife and I drove. So I loaded up my van full of gongs and stuff and drove out there. This year, I went out to the gong camp by myself and I flew. I didn't even bring any mallets. I didn't even bring anything. But I brought myself, which is the most important thing. And in each case, the Gong Summit in 2019, Gong Camp in 2021, Gong Camp in 2022, I was just me. And I brought my sounds because my sounds are here. So, again, I can't emphasize that enough. Don't get so hung up on specific instruments. Instruments can get lost or stolen. Instruments can break. And when you travel, you cannot always bring your own instruments because they're big and they're heavy. And you use what's provided. So it's up to you to bring the sounds, bring the music, bring the magic with you. And then unlock the possibilities. Okay. So that's enough of that. I could talk probably all day on that subject because I just see it as so important. So let's move to the next subject. I've been, I change things in my setup now and then. I bring different instruments. I switch out some gongs, and because it's not static, and I get bored. I don't want to do the same thing over and over and over 20, 30, 40 times. I want to shift something else in. And I'm hearing, again, this is all a part of how everything comes from you. I'm hearing different sounds in my head. And I might go, oh, I'm hearing a Venus gong. I'm hearing this sound of this gong I have. I will bring that and switch it out with something else because I'm just hearing this sort of possibility. Or I'm hearing the sun gong down here, or my number 9B here. Yeah, I will change things out because I'm hearing different sounds in my head. Bring different bowls, different bells. One thing I've been hearing is drumming. I've been a drummer since I was like 12 years old. So that's a lot longer than probably most of you have been alive. So it's a long time. Hearing drumming. And I kept thinking I should bring one of my frame drums or maybe bring a djembe or something like that. But I really didn't want to, okay, I got another case or bag. I got more stuff to carry. So what I've been doing, I've been drumming on the gongs because they're just metal frame drums. They really are. That's all they are. And even in many cultures in Asia, they will call them metal drums. So what I've been using is using my number 0 bronze gong. similar to this. This is the number 1. The 0 is the black one, has a little less hammer marks on it. And a mallet, I've been using it as a drum, and we will demonstrate. So again, here's a piece of B8 bronze. It's been heated and hammered and tensioned and formed into a gong. There's a lot of possibility here. But hanging on the stand, there's nothing. I have to unlock the possibilities. And I could do various things. I could just, the typical hit it. I could do 2 mallets and do some rolls. I could do stuff like that. Or I could unlock a whole different possibility. There. So instead of bringing the drum, I have a metal drum hanging up behind me. I've been drumming on the gongs. I like it. And it's great. And again, it's something inside of me. It's a possibility in any of these gongs. It's up to me to bring it out and to bring it out from the gongs. All right, let's get to a couple of questions from this week. I was talking about various things on Facebook, and people had some questions. One question, I was talking about using like fruit bowls and things that my wife has bought and I've sort of claimed for sound purposes. And Ernesto Elk asked, I said, I've got it in a video somewhere, and I couldn't find what video it's in. Got way too many videos for me to try to go through, and I don't have any sort of index of every topic in every video. So I just thought I would talk about that for a minute. Here is made in, let's see where this is made. I think this is made in India. This is I don't think it's a copper bowl. I think it might be an aluminum bowl that is copper finished. It says medium antique copper finish serving bowl. I think it might be aluminum. It's fairly lightweight. But my wife got this. You can use it for like a fruit bowl or something. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. Let me get a softer mallet here. Try a bigger one here. No, I don't even know where she got it. Let's see if I grab another mallet. Just here, kind of a medium chord. Okay. I mean, it's not the loudest. It's not as loud as a bronze singing bowl. The tone won't last as long generally, but it sounds really nice. I can use it for various things. I have some others, but they're packed away and I couldn't find them. I was looking for them. Other bells I do have, I have some like alarm bells, like you see on like an old style fire alarm. You know, they're about 6 or 8 inches in diameter, slight dish shape, hole in the center, and there's a little metal thing, like a that rings on it. I've picked up a number of those over the years. Those are generally steel, and they have a nice sound. So it's finding alternate things like this. I mean, you could go to import stores like Pier 1, World Market, 10,000 Villages, places like that, and other stores that sell decorative items, and you can pick up bowls like this all day long in different sizes. You can find all kinds of other interesting objects. I've been known to take a mallet and go to Goodwill stores, secondhand stores, even places like IKEA and stuff like that, and start banging on the metal objects they have. I was just at IKEA and they have some similar bowls to this that I was tempted to pick up because they had multiple sizes. So it's all about the sound. Again, nothing is happening here. It is just a metal object formed into the shape of a bowl. It's up to me to bring out any sort of inherent sound possibility. And I think that's, again, that's so important to understand. It's just a bowl. I could put fruit in it. I could put, it's near Christmas time. If this was upstairs, it would probably be full of spiced pine cones and, red and green ornaments. You could do a lot of things with this. You could use it as a planter, but I used my own abilities, my own magic to bring out a different possibility in this metal object. So don't be afraid, to go looking for stuff. It's really great if you go, especially like to Goodwill, Salvation Army, secondhand stores. Look in the cooking ware sections where the pots and pans are. And what you want to look for is the very, very old, like cast iron ones. You can get cast iron pot lids that sound amazing, that have a really nice set. I have a friend here in town who put together a whole set of them, and he has this pot lid gamelan, and it sounds really nice. They're all lids that he got at secondhand stores. So don't be afraid to look in alternate places for alternate types of sounds. Metal, maybe bring a mallet with you, or you can just bang it with your finger and see if it has some sort of sound possibility locked inside. So that's for Ernesto. Okay. Another one is, I was talking this week on Facebook that I was at IKEA up in Minneapolis visiting my youngest son, and we went to IKEA, and I'm just walking around, and there's a bazillion things to see. If you've never been to IKEA, if you ever get near one, go to one. I mean, it's kind of like a Disneyland for stuff. I mean, some of it's kind of junky, some of it isn't. And we were there, I just kind of was looking at stuff, and I go, ooh, chopsticks. $1.99. Oh, this is great. I'll take them, So here we go. We have some nice chopsticks. They're fairly substantial. These are great for softer sounds. Use them on the bowls. Bells. Or I've got like a bell chime. This is a fairly heavy chopstick. We had carry out last week, so I've got some other chopsticks here. This is our chopstick episode. These are much thinner, much lighter. Might be kind of hard to tell, but see, this is a thicker one. And these are kind of squared off where these are round. So a little lighter. Here's the bigger one. Great for getting light sounds on any instruments. Bells, bowls, other percussion. I've got my little bells here. Little gongs. I like them for light sounds. They're cheap. Again, these were free, or I guess we did pay for them with the cost of the dinner. And these were $1.99 for 4 pair. Great stuff. Similar things. My wife's a quilter. We were at a fabric shop last spring. I'm looking around. Oh, bamboo Japanese knitting needles. It's like, oh, these are great. What I like about these, it's a lot like a chopstick. It's very similar to these. But it's got a nice pointed tip, which is really light. But it also has this little bald end. If you can see it better, get it in the black there. It's got a bald end, so I've got possibility of, like a mallet, it'll be a bigger sound. So those are nice. Bamboo knitting needles from Japan. And you can get these in various sizes, but what really attracted me to these were the ball ends. It's like, I've got 2 possibilities here. Similar to that, just a mallet handle. Here's a handle. The ball end has come off. It's just a mallet stick. a little heavier, a little louder, and get a little more happening. And here's something else, some metal chopsticks. I don't know what kind of metal they are. They're silver colored. They don't really make any resonance. Not really on their own, but they're metal. And you could use these too. I would be real gentle with these on the gong because these would scratch. But I tend to use these more for rubbing on a gong. Let's see. If I don't have, I got a Thai gong here somewhere. I'll look for a Thai gong. See if I can find one in a minute. And then here's some double pointed metal knitting needles. I don't know what it says here. Just that they're double pointed knitting needles. Okay, same thing, but you've got the pointed end, so it's a little brings about different possibilities. So we've got chopsticks, bamboo knitting needles, metal chopsticks, metal knitting needles. You can get plastic knitting needles and crochet needles and all sorts of things like that. So don't be afraid to look for alternate striking implements. It's really, they're out there. Let me grab a gong here. Here's one of my small Thai gongs, and I like to use the metal ones to scrape. That's one thing I like to do with these. You can get a really nice sound, and you can play rhythmic patterns with it. I mean, you can scrape with the sticks too. It's much quieter. You're not getting all that volume, and you don't tend to get that tuning change as much as you do with like a metal chopstick. So there's some possibilities there with chopsticks and knitting needles and alternate implements. And that question came today from Mihaela David. So thank you, Mihaela, and thank you, Ernesto, for your questions. I hope that gave you some food for thought and gave you some ideas. And, this has been my whole career. For all these years, this has been my whole career as a percussionist, playing 50 some years, is looking at things in this way. Alternate striking implements, alternate ways to strike things, rub things, shake things, rubbing two instruments together, striking two instruments together. How can I create different sounds acoustically? And a big part of what I like to do when I'm playing in an improvised setting, especially with other musicians, is try to create electronic sounding sounds, but acoustically. And I do have some recordings out there where I'm playing with people who are playing electronics or electric instruments, and it's like you can't tell who's doing what sound sometimes, because I'm making very electrical, type sounds, electronic sounds with acoustic instruments. This is one way to do it, is with alternate instruments and alternate implements. So again, the biggest lesson today is all this stuff. It's just possibility. It can sit in your house, sit in your studio for years and nobody touches it. And it's all it is a possibility. It needs us to unlock those possibilities and bring them out. So the magic, the music, all the beauty that can be created with these instruments is here. It's in us. It's up to us to bring it out. So remember that, and we will see you next time. Thanks a lot.